Hi, as all of you already know, my name's Shakked, and I'm turning 13 in 2 weeks. So normal custom would be for me to have a bar mitzvah, but after I read a book called The Life You Can Save by Peter Singer, I decided that instead of doing a ceremony, I decided I wanted to do something that would have a positive impact on the world, so I decided to do this presentation, which I'm sending to you, and also I'm presenting it in various schools in New Zealand. But today is not about me. It's about the tens of thousands of people that die every day from preventable causes and what you can do to help them. Today I'm going to talk about what's happening in Africa, why you should help, and how you can help. Next slide. Every year, 12 million children under 5 years of age and 4 million children under 1 month of age die of preventable causes, like easily prevented diseases, malnutrition, or unclean water. The reason for this is realized once we see that the average New Zealander earns 20 times as much as the average African does. Also, 30% of children in sub-Saharan Africa are underweight. So imagine if 1 in every 3 of you didn't receive sufficient nutrition. That's the situation there. And only 57% of children can go to school. And notice that I said can, not do, because the problem with the rest is not that they don't want to go to school. On the contrary, most of them probably wish they could, but that something keeps them from going. Maybe their family doesn't have sufficient money, and they stay at home and work to survive. Or maybe they have to walk for several hours a day to fetch water from a distant water hole. Or maybe their family just can't afford the school fees, since most developing countries do have school fees. In any case, if these children could go to school, the situation in Africa would improve considerably. Next slide. There are about 925 million malnourished people in the world, or 13.1% of the world's population. Basically, about 1 in 7, a little more than 1 in 7 of the world's people are hungry. Of these, 276 million, or almost 1/3, are in Africa. And also, of the 12 million children that die under the age of 5 every year, more than half are killed by malnutrition. And of these 12 million, 1/3 are in sub-Saharan Africa. That's 2.2 million very young children killed by malnutrition every year in sub-Saharan Africa alone. That's half of New Zealand's population. So imagine if half of New Zealand died every year of starvation. And these are just children under 5. So there are several causes for malnutrition. So the first is obviously poverty. 50.9% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa live on less than $1.25 a day. Does any of you have a bottle of water right now that you may have bought? Well, these people live on less than that bottle cost you for the whole day. They depend on that for food, for water, for a home. And another cause of malnutrition is global warming, which can kill crops and cause droughts. And a third cause is HIV/AIDS, which may kill the principal moneymakers in a family and leave the rest destitute and unable to provide for themselves. Next slide. We take clean water for granted. If we want to drink, we can just go over to the tap and turn it on, and as much clean water as we need comes gushing out. But that's not the situation in Africa. 43% of children in sub-Saharan Africa do not have access to safe drinking water. And that excludes the children who do, but have to walk for hours a day to fetch it. And of the 884 million people in the world who don't have access to safe drinking water, almost half are in Africa. 4,000 children die every year due to unsafe drinking water, and 10% of global diseases would just disappear, just stop manifesting themselves, if everyone had access to safe, clean water. And the walking to water I mentioned earlier, in Africa alone, 40 billion hours are spent fetching water every year. That's about roughly 40 hours per person per year. Imagine if you had to walk for 40 hours every year just to fetch water, to drink, and to bathe. Of course, if it was 40 hours per person per year, it wouldn't be much of a problem, but it's not distributed that perfectly. Because some people don't have to walk at all, and other people have to walk for 6 to 8 hours a day to fetch water for their family. So something like a water pump could change the future of the whole village immeasurably, because not only would people stop dying of the diseases caused by the unsafe drinking water they consume. It would free up children who have to fetch water to go to school and get a better education. Next slide. Slavery. So it sounds like a word from the bygone past, an atrocity that was only committed decades ago. But it still happens. It's still around us. 200,000 African children are sold as slaves every year, and 120,000 African children are currently fighting in wars. And these children aren't kidnapped or stolen, as you might believe. Most of the time, it's actually their family, desperate for money, that sells them into slavery. And that's just slavery. 41% of children in Africa aged 5 to 14 work illegally.